Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammang sanghang saranang gacchami. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Dear friends, we are now at the end of the 3 months of the Vasa Rains Retreat. We've entered into the month of Katina, which is a time for generosity, a time for coming together in communities, a time for travel and visitations. So we shall have, in a few days, Ayyā Sobhana will be coming for a short visit from the Empty Cloud, Italia, and I shall be traveling to visit Dhamma in California, and I shall also be traveling after that to visit the Charlotte, North Carolina Buddhist Vihara. And so I'm turning now to a different Dhamma theme that I might cover as long as it seems juicy and rich. And that is looking at various suttas regarding Vedana, or feeling. So I'm calling this series Dealing with Feeling. That's my catchphrase for the next little while. By the way, if you want me to treat some particular Dhamma theme, if you give me a message about it, I will consider covering a theme that's of interest to you. So the sutra that I start with is one that's very famous. It's called the Salla Sutta, or the arrow. I'm going to go right ahead and read it. Mendicants, an unlearned, ordinary person feels pleasant, painful, and neutral feelings. A learned, noble disciple also feels pleasant, painful, and neutral feelings. What then is the difference between a learned, noble disciple and an ordinary, unlearned person? The students answered, our teachings are rooted in the Buddha, and so forth, asking for the Buddha's explanation. So the Buddha goes on. When an unlearned, ordinary person experiences painful physical feeling, they sorrow, wail, and lament, beating their breast and falling into confusion. They experience two feelings, physical and mental. It's like a person who was struck with an arrow, only to be struck with a second arrow. That person experiences the feeling of two arrows. In the same way, when an unlearned, ordinary person experiences painful physical feelings, they sorrow, wail, and lament, beating their breast and falling into confusion. They experience two feelings, physical and mental. When they're touched by a painful feeling, they resist it. The underlying tendency for repulsion towards that painful feeling underlies that. When touched by painful feeling, they look forward to enjoying sensual pleasures. Why is that? Because an unlearned ordinary person doesn't understand any escape from painful feeling apart from sensual pleasures. Since they look forward to enjoying sensual pleasures, the underlying tendency to greed for pleasant feeling underlies that. They don't truly understand feeling's origin, disappearance, gratification, drawback, and escape. The underlying tendency to ignorance about neutral feeling underlies that. If they feel a pleasant feeling, they feel it attached. If they feel a painful feeling, they feel it attached. And if they feel a neutral feeling, they feel it attached. They're called an unlearned ordinary person who is attached to rebirth, old age, and death, to sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress, who is attached to suffering, I say. I'm going to pause here and I'll go back through this methodically. Feeling is the general affect or tone that comes up in response to some phenomena. In the dependent origination, there's a reference to the body-mind, the nama-rupa, mentality and materiality, that's the individual, with the mental factors in a mutual dependence with the material factors of the body. And then based on that nama-rupa, there are the sense faculties, including the 5 physical senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and also the 6th sense, which is called the mental sense, which is able to experience an idea. With the consciousness, the cognitive feature that's able to cognize experiences, that phenomena that come into us through the senses, and with the presence of working sense organ, and with the presence of an object, the right kind of object, like a visible object for the eye, then there comes to be contact, and from that contact arises the Vedana, the feeling. And then independent origination, it says when it's on the revert, downhill slide towards suffering, immediately from feeling arises craving. So that's the powerful pattern. To put it another way, the feeling arises in the body or in the mind. But in this case, the Buddha is speaking of a physical feeling and the mental feeling as being the 2 arrows. So the physical feeling is going to be some change that happens in the physical body, and this is before the other aspects of thinking and understanding and cognizing and having intentions about what's being experienced. So at the very first instant, if one sees, for example, a frightening object, suppose I see a snake, for example, with the eye, it could be, going away from the Dhamma into more modern ideas, which I think are very much matching with the Dhamma, that instinctively, even at a subconscious level, something happens with that sight, and the body becomes tense. The blood flows to the limbs to prepare one to be able to run away or to take some action. And it could be that the eyeball becomes very sharply focused to observe that snake, and some adrenaline comes pumping into the body, all because of a reaction to the sight of the snake that's happened at the still even before it's conscious. And then based on that, this is the fuel which is setting up some kind of emotional reaction, which is summarized independent origination by tanha, or craving. The perception is another phenomenon that's happening at the same time. And it's said that maybe the feeling is like the very first moment in which we were able to cognize some kind of experience that's happening to us. And then almost immediately after that comes some kind of a perception about it. So it could be, as I give in that example, it's a snake, or it could be something much more sort of elaborated than that, like some kind of story. The classic of the story that I always use is that so-and-so is always doing that to me. So this is like the story of a grudge, or the story of anxiety, the story of depression, or even the story of could be that even without an external object, say a certain amount of time has gone by, and one begins to feel hungry, just because the blood sugar is dropping, the energy is dropping, because it's been a certain amount of time since the food happened. Or it could be that there's a particular time of the day in which we usually eat, and so the combination of the low blood sugar and it being time for the meal, that those things can be experienced in the body as an uncomfortable feeling, even though it might be experienced as something that's rather vague, and almost you might start picturing or having in your imagination what's going to be for lunch, even before you recognize or acknowledge to yourself that there's a grumbling sensation in the belly from hunger. And then that perception is and that feeling and that perception together has got a kind of a synergy to it. I like to think of the feeling as being like the fuel which activates and drives our reactivity. So the stories that we tell, and then after that, the intentions that we create get into they get into a synergy, but the activation for that, the match that gets that process going is the feeling. It's said elsewhere that all feelings are all Vedana are dukkha, including even the pleasant feeling is dukkha. Why is that? We know that unpleasant feelings are dukkha. Why would pleasant feelings be dukkha? Why would neutral feelings be dukkha? Well, we saw it here in this sutta, that it said that pleasant feeling has the underlying tendency of greed, unpleasant feeling has the underlying tendency of dislike or patika, and neutral feeling has the unpleasant tendency of ignorance. And those two things, the greed, hatred, and ignorance or delusion, are the three things that are the very perpetuation of suffering. Or to put it in another way, for an ordinary person, our feeling as being part of our emotional or mental equipment that we were born with, that all sentient beings are born with feeling. Feeling has a function. It has a purpose. There's a reason why it's beneficial and useful to have a feeling. And what is that? The use? The use is that one can become activated in order to do what you got to do to continue your existence. So to have something to eat so that you don't starve, to have some rest so you don't make yourself ill because you don't get any sleep, to run away from the snake, to all the different ways, things that you do to take care of yourself in the ordinary sense are all in a really a beautiful way guided and directed by the Vedanas that are coming along. And to a certain extent, well, if your goal is to continue your existence, the feeling is a wonderful thing because it helps you to continue your existence. But then if you see the danger in clinging to continued existence, if you see the danger of going around and around in samsara, then you will see that feeling is a mixed blessing. If you just, in a kind of a stupid way, only obeyed your feeling all the time, you wouldn't be far from awakening, far from liberation. And even an ordinary person, if they just blindly acted out based on their feelings all the time, that would be a very immature person. That might even be someone who you could say they have some kind of a defect, some kind of mental defect that makes them have no impulse control, that they just act out impulsively with what their feeling is. So then we know that, like, for an ordinary person, the cognition, the perception, the seeing what it is, that comes a little bit more slowly than the feeling, but it enables us to more accurately assess what's really going on. And so at the ordinary mundane level, I could see a snake, and then I look more closely, and I realized, oh, it's just a rope. And so then all of the activation subsides when I look at it more accurately. Or if I'm wise, I could see something which is a physical danger or a social danger, some kind of loss, some kind of tragedy. Say the house burns down, that's a big change. Something happens that's like the opposite of what I expected. And there's a strong, sharp, unpleasant feeling because of that. And with that comes up a big reaction, which is strongly motivated by this clinging to existence, saying, oh, what a tragedy, my house burned down. Oh, what a tragedy, somebody insulted me. Oh, what a tragedy, I lost my dear ones. Oh, what a tragedy. This really happened to me at the monastery. I had an understanding about one of the rules of the monastery, the last monastery I was staying at. And I had that understanding for more than 10 years. And then I found out that my understanding was incorrect. And I had all of this time thought I was following the rule, but I had an incorrect understanding. Oh, I had an unpleasant feeling. So then with wisdom, whether it be something, materialistic or something social, or even something that's at the level of even more of a mental level, because something is a danger to our existence, that's causing their reactivity to happen in the body. So that's why even if it's words, it's still considered a bodily feeling because the attention and the reactivity is happening in the body. But then when the ordinary wisdom comes to say, well, is that really true? And you can just examine it at that level to see whether what you thought was happening is actually what was happening or not. Maybe it was something different. But then even if it was something that really happened, maybe the house really did burn down. But then you have the chance to look at it in a different way, saying all things are impermanent. It's not my house. I don't have to identify with that. And I can see that unpleasant feeling is just revealing to me the danger in being attached. And I can then have a chance to let go and experience the relief from letting go from that attachment. Another reason why all Vedana is dukkha is what they call the hedonic treadmill. So if you feel uncomfortable and you want to get some pleasure to take away the discomfort, and then that pleasure will relieve the discomfort for a little while, but it's only very extremely temporary. And so then the discomfort will come back again. So if it's something our basic bodily functions, like the need for rest or the need for food or something like that. Maybe it's not that problematical to know that you'll need to eat again, every day, or at least every couple of days you'll need to take some food. But then if you have anxiety or addiction or something like that, where the mood is sort of chronically in a painful or a sad place, and you cover that up with pleasure, and then it very quickly drops down to that sad or painful place again, and that can drive all of our a lot of compulsive behavior. So that's another way that all the Vedanas are dukkha, and all the Vedanas are very unstable. They're continuously changing. It's one of the best exercises that a person could do in meditation, if is to get to be tuned in to noticing the ever-changing, shimmering stream of the different Vedanas that come along, and just watching that and seeing how unstable it is, how it's almost just like watching shadows or watching the flickering of the leaves of a tree in the wind. It's just continuously changing. But that instability is something that can also be, if you crave for things to be stable, that instability is painful. And so that's a bit about what feeling is. In this sutta, it says that the ordinary person, when they get a painful feeling, their sorrow, wail, and lament, beating their breast and falling into confusion. So that's a description of falling into emotional reactivity because one has taken the bait and believe the Vedana, and you haven't, this person has not been able to bring their higher thinking ability to examine what's going on, to see whether the Vedana is really justified or not. Or it could be that because of the feeling that actually they've formed a belief, formed a theory, like the theory of the self is called Sakkaya Ditthi. That's like, it's almost like an ideology. So a person has gotten like a system of ideas that create their own suffering. So if you think you're a victim, then every painful thing will perpetuate that belief. So then, when the Buddha speaks of the two arrows, the first arrow, I'm going to say, is actually the changes that happened in the physical body because of some feeling arising, and then the mental process that happens after that, which is perceptions and volitions and ideas, preoccupations, obsessions, all of that mentality That's the second arrow. It's one of the useful ways to help when overtaken by distressing feelings, is to, because it's the second arrow is the one that's causing the trouble. The first arrow happens to everybody, even the Buddha will experience physical pain because of old age and sickness. Even the Buddha will experience tiredness and so forth like that. If you can train your mindfulness to very regularly, quickly, accurately notice the arising of the Vedanas and redirect your attention towards the body and notice how the different feelings are manifesting in the body, and let your awareness stay at that bodily level. That is one way of not letting the proliferations, the mental proliferations, to take hold. Now, there's another statement here. When they're touched by painful feeling, they resist it. The underlying tendency towards repulsion towards painful feeling underlies that. So this resistance is a very good Pali word that we can all learn. It's called patigha. Patigha. So that's unpleasant mental formation called, it's like a repulsion, dislike, resistance. So when painful feeling arises, if you're not resilient enough to be able to tolerate unpleasant feeling, and if you feel like you've got to get rid of that pleasant feeling ASAP, if somebody is so like sensitive that they just can't bear it, and then they kind of can be driven into a kind of a frenzy to try to make that unpleasant feeling go away. We'll be like the amoeba in the petri dish when they put a little bit of vinegar in the dish, and the amoebas all run to the other side of the petri dish because they're getting away from that vinegar because it hurts them. So just the same way, if you realize this the danger in that resisting feeling, and learn how to just stay still and allow the unpleasant feeling to be there, to be part of the experience. Don't fight the unpleasant feeling. Simply, I'm not saying that you choose pleasant feeling, that you hurt yourself. On the contrary, but I'm saying that pleasant feeling will come to you anyway. You don't have to choose it. It comes to you anyway. And when it comes to you, you have to accept it. And when you accept it, that means with compassion, it's sort of like just saying, oh, this is unpleasant. Ah, it's unpleasant. Oh, this is painful. Okay, it's painful. And just be with it. Then you would escape from another Pali word which is on the screen, which is patika anusaya. So the patika anusaya is the underlying tendency towards repulsion. Probably some babies are born with a strong underlying tendency towards repulsion. And I think the scientists can say this can become a kind of an enduring quality of a person's personality. So if the psychologist touches the baby with a piece of ice, some babies don't react to it very much, and other babies immediately start, crying because it hurts them, because they're sensitive. And some people are sensitive. They can't. It's like to be around loud noises is like really hurts them because their ears are sensitive. So they've got this in their physical makeup, having that sensitivity. And also because of your cultural upbringing, you may also have some other kinds of sensitivity that if you want a toy and you don't get the toy that you want, that could hurt you, and you could have a temper tantrum because you didn't get your toy. Or if you can't stand to be insulted, and if somebody insults you, you just lose it because you can't stand it. So those kind of habits of the mind, that's what I believe is this underlying tendency towards repulsion. When you have that, please be patient with yourself and know that it could be part of your genetics, and it could also be part of some long habits that you've built up over your lifetime, based on your culture and your life experience. And if you would make the intention to learn how to tolerate things that are not pleasant, I think maybe this is what they do with operant conditioning. So if somebody is afraid of snakes, I think, or afraid of spiders or something like that, the first the therapist will have them just hear a story about a spider or a story about a snake, and then they'll get used to that, and then they'll look at a picture of a spider or a picture of a snake, or then they'll look at the spider or the snake inside of a terrarium so that it's safe. So they kind of come closer and closer and closer until finally they feel comfortable with picking up a snake. So what's an example in the Dhamma of doing this kind of operant conditioning? The best example I could think of is the corpse meditation. So the ordinary person who is clinging to existence will be afraid of death. And when you look at the dead body, as it's described in the Satipatthana Sutta, that it's festering, bloated, and rotten, and where maggots are, coming out of the eyeballs, and so the very description is almost designed to make you come face to face with this repulsiveness, that there's something that's kind of like ingrained in us. But the teaching is, even though it's repulsive, just look at this corpse and face up to that reality. And then as that meditation goes on, the corpse then, just becomes a skeleton, or just becomes some scattered bones, or just becomes dust. And so then at the end, if you happen to come across a fragment of bone in the forest, you wouldn't feel that anything like the same kind of repulsion that you felt at the beginning towards that bloated, maggot-infested corpse. So just in the same way, you can condition yourself to re-educate your underlying tendency towards repulsion. And acknowledging that some people are physically sensitive in a way that's genetic, and they may have a little bit more work to do to train themselves so that they don't pick up that reactivity. There's quite a lot of suttas about this patika, and that's why I think it's sort of like a neglected idea in the Dhamma Teachings. It's almost, well, the sensual craving is like tanha. Everybody knows what tanha is. It means craving or thirst. And many people are very aware of kama raga, or sensual desire, or just the idea of this raga, or this lust, this craving for sense stimulation. And those are all like the are ways that we respond to pleasant objects, or towards the wish for pleasant objects, towards visualizing that in the near future one could reach for some pleasant object, or else that there's some pleasant object that comes to us, and we would like to savor it and delight and find it so delectable, so delightful, and we'd like to take it and hold on to it and keep it and make it last. So people know about those ideas, and they know tanha is, of course, everybody knows tanha because it's part of dependent origination. But this patika is like, it's the other side. It's the other side of craving. So like and dislike. So the like is the raga or the tanha. The dislike is, there's several different Pali words for dislike or hatred or aversion. But this patika is a very, like at the basic level, it's sort of like a basic emotion. So just like a thirst is like one of the most simplest kinds of emotions that you could have towards you want something, you need it, you got to have it. And that patika, I think, is the very basic instinctive level of being disgusted or repelled or repulsed by something. And if you learn to watch that, then you can overcome it. So now, I already alluded a little bit that, and it's so beautifully expressed in the sutta. This is how addiction happens. when people look forward to enjoying sensual pleasures as an escape from pain. So the more a person is in pain or suffering from, could be some kind of a chronic unhappiness or chronic difficult circumstance, the more they could try to medicate their pain by taking some pleasure. And that is the real, that's the whole addictive cycle. And it doesn't have to be a substance. It can be many different kind of processes can have that same addictive kind of quality. I want to come ahead here and see what happens with a learned noble disciple. Yeah. Okay. Here's the learned noble disciple. When they experience a painful physical feeling, they don't sorrow, wail, or lament, beating their breast, falling into confusion. So they've learned to some extent to restrain that immediate reactivity, and especially not falling into confusion. Learned how to stay clear. They experience one feeling, the physical, not the mental, so they don't feel the proliferation of corrupted perceptions, corrupted intentions, corrupted obsessions, and so on. There's another way that you can use this idea to quickly get out of the second arrow when touched by a painful feeling, and that is there's a certain idea. That dukkha is caused by craving. The end of craving is your spiritual path to the end of dukkha. The end of attachment is your spiritual path to the end of dukkha. So if the second arrow starts to come up for you, that's your craving. And it's painful. Both of them are painful. But if you can recognize the painful quality of the second arrow, and as soon as that happens, I would like you to have this light bulb come on and say, oh, the Blessed One was right. There is dukkha. I'm craving for something, or I'm clinging to something. And that's why this pain is coming to me. And if you have that recognition, then this should be your incentive, your motivation to investigate, like what's really going on, and see if it's possible to discover what it is that you're craving for or what it is that you're clinging to, and to discover how to let go of that. And so in that way, if you get hit by that second arrow is your learning opportunity. It's the dukkha of the Four Noble Truths. That dukkha is caused by craving. That's the arising of dukkha is with craving. And craving should be let go. Craving should be abandoned. So if you learn the process of abandoning again and again and again, then that's your intermediate stage until you come to be like a fully enlightened person who does not experience at all the second arrow because they don't have that craving, they don't have that attachment. So they're not struck by the second arrow. They only experience the feeling of one arrow. They don't sorrow, wail, or lament, beating their breast, falling into confusion. When they're touched by painful feeling, they don't resist it. So this is the patika. The resistance doesn't come up. This is what I was trying to tell you before. If you are able to tolerate, have more tolerance for pain, that you're able to be with a compassionate way, just be present for the pain. Just relax around the pain. Say, okay, it's painful. It's okay. It's just a painful feeling. When touched by the painful feeling, they don't look forward to enjoying sensual pleasures. So the craving for pleasure is gone, or it's fading away. And why is that? Because they understand that there is an escape from painful feeling apart from sensual pleasures. And that escape it doesn't mean meditation and going into jhana so that you can forget about your pain by just escaping. The escape is the letting go. When the craving is let go, that's the escape. And now he's going into the three underlying tendencies. The underlying tendency towards the patika is not there. The underlying tendency towards greed is not there. They truly understand feelings, origin, disappearance, gratification, drawback, and escape. So the origin of feeling is karma, the previous karma that caused you to be born as a sentient being, like a human being who's born from a mother, made out of flesh, with all of the inner processes of life, with this body which is subject to old age, sickness, and death. So a lot of feeling automatically comes with the package of having this kind of a physical body. It comes from the package of being born with the you could say the psychological or the mental equipment of a human being, or whatever kind of animal you happen to be, then you'll have like instinctive tendencies to react to things in certain kind of ways until wisdom comes along. So that whole package, that's the origin, your social environment, your cultural background, and the training you had from that, and whatever the previous comment was, that caused you to choose to get born into that particular body or that particular species of being in that particular social and cultural environment. So that's the origin of feeling. And then the immediate origin of feeling is the contact. So you can see that. And then you can see the disappearance of feeling. When the contact stops, the feeling stops. If it's the second era, the contact is the contact of the at the mental level, the perceptions and volitions. That contact within at the mental level is bringing the painful feelings, and when those stop, the feeling stops. That's the disappearance. The gratification is. Everybody likes feeling. You'd be very sad if you didn't have any. The drawback is it's impermanent. And the escape is letting go. This is coming, making a bridge to the underlying tendency to. There is no underlying tendency to ignorance about neutral feeling underlying that. Usually, this teaching about the underlying tendency to ignorance is given in the context of one who has mastered meditation and who has been able to get a certain amount of seclusion from the unpleasant feelings that's arising from sensual pleasures, or from aversion, from other factors like that, able to experience the peace and withdrawal from the senses, the peacefulness of meditation, which is away from those kinds of stimulations. But even a person who's in a really tranquil state of meditation, it could still be subject to ignorance if they think that they're already in heaven, because of temporarily being able to be in that very pleasant, tranquil state of deep meditation. But even those sublime states still are subject to the origin, disappearance, gratification, drawback, and escape, because those states are conditioned. They're caused by the effort that you made or the opportunity you had. You happened to learn about how to do meditation. You made the choice to make the effort to teach yourself meditation. You did all of the entire practices of the other parts of the path, which are supporting to meditation. You developed right view, you developed your sila, you developed your right effort and your right mindfulness, and as a result of all of those things, you were able to come into this beautiful meditation. But nevertheless, still a residual of ignorance can be there unless you see that everything, this understanding, the origin disappearance is still applies to that neutral feeling. And so then you will give up clinging to that feeling. And then if you give up clinging at increasingly more subtle and profound levels, then this noble disciple would come to this final state. If they feel a pleasant feeling, they feel it detached. If they feel a painful feeling, they feel it detached. If they feel a neutral feeling, they feel it detached. And then they will be called learned, noble disciple, detached from rebirth, old age and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain. So this is the state of liberation, which is one of the descriptions of Nibbana. Then comes the verse. Navedanang vedayati sapanyo sukhampi dukkhampi bahusatopi ayanjadira sapatunjanena mahaviseso kusalasahoti. A wise and learned person isn't affected by feelings of pleasure and pain. This is the great difference in skill between the wise and the ordinary. Sankata dhammasa bahusatustassa vipassato lokamimang parancha ittassa dhamma namatenti cittang anittato no patikata. A learned person who has appraised the teaching discerns this world and the next. Desirable things don't disturb the mind, nor are they repelled by the undesirable. Tassa nurodha atava virodha vidhupita attagata nasanti paranchanyatva virakjang asokang samma pajanati bhavasaparaguti. Both favoring and opposing are cleared and ended. They are no more. Knowing the stainless, sorrowless state, they who have gone beyond rebirth understand rightly. So this is what I have to say about this sutta. Welcome, Nancy, Manal, Jim, Bhumikas, Chintana, Ryan. I see 2 questions so far. Chintana asks, and we only want to continue our existence to reach Nibbana. You would we would not engage in self-destructive behavior because we know how precious it is to have this kind of life, to know that we're sentient beings who are capable of hearing the Dhamma, listening to the Dhamma. We were lucky enough to be born into a time and place where we have a chance to hear the Dhamma and listen to the Dhamma. We have a chance to practice. And as long as we're still not come to the end of the path, then there is the chance for growing in wisdom and developing in that way. I'm a little cautious about saying want to continue our existence, just to I understand the meaning, and I just kind of said that in a good way, like we have that appreciation that we have this opportunity of this existence in this state with this chance, but be really careful about what you want. Even like wanting nibbana, there are like wholesome intentions that come about, but the wanting has to be let go of in the end. So it's perfectly okay to take your unwholesome desires, unskillful desires, and substitute them with skillful desires, like wanting to continue our existence to reach nibbana. And then the skillful desire at the end has to be replaced, has to be let go. You can't reach the goal with desire. So with that caution, I would agree with this statement. For some people, reaching nibbana is not a useful way of thinking about it, because that can kind of like almost like bring up craving in a way that's not useful. For some people, if they just feel that they're practicing the Dhamma in accord with the Buddha's teaching, if they just feel that they're on the path and they're not wandering away from the path, that's enough. And you might not know, like for sure, what you're going to be able to accomplish in this lifetime. I tend to think of Nibbana as kind of like a North Star. So I do reflect about Nibbana. I do really appreciate being able to read in the suttas the different descriptions that give some kind of a picture of what the experience is for a fully awakened one, or to even have the opportunity to meet or read about actual, people who are enlightened, in order to have that inspiration, and also to help stay on the right direction. But then whether that's going to happen for you within this lifetime, or whether it's going to happen for you just at the moment of death, that's what sometimes happens for some people, or whether if you are a noble disciple, you at least have stream entry, then you don't know if it's going to happen in this life or a subsequent existence. But if you're a noble disciple, you know it's going to happen. You just got to keep doing the work. Here's another question, Venerable. How would one know if Vedana is justified or unjustified? So they, in one way, Vedana is not very smart, not very intelligent. It's not very accurate, not very precise. You've just, there's just a pleasant feeling. So the pleasant feeling could be many different causes. The pleasant feeling could be just thinking about something that's going to be fun, or the pleasant feeling could be something that's really skillful, that's like the pleasant feeling of the practice of metta, or practice of and so on. So you need to develop mindfulness, which is a way of having unbiased and accurate perceptions, which are not biased because of greed and aversion. So to the extent that you can develop mindfulness, then when the Vedana comes up, or when some perception comes up, with mindfulness you can examine it, and you can make that inquiry: is it true or is it not true? So if it's and this will depend on where you're at with your training. So if you are a ordinary person and you see a rope and you thought it was a snake, and then you look more closely and you realize that actually it's just a rope, then you would know that Vedana that you had was not justified, because the Vedana came because of the delusion of a snake. Okay, so in that way, that's not justified. And just by looking more closely, look to see how it actually is. Try to look for the truth, and then for one who's then wise, even if it really is a snake, if you then bring our wisdom to bear, and you realize that even if the snake could bite me, I don't need to be upset about it. Even if the snake could touch my physical body and make me ill, that is trivial compared with the significance of my karma. And so let me at least have loving kindness towards the snake and substitute my fear or hatred towards the snake with loving kindness. So then, like hatred of the snake or fear of the snake, at that level, if you had that kind of wisdom, you would see, even if it really is a snake, that the fearful or the hateful feeling is not justified, and with a different kind of wisdom, you could bring substitute that with a pleasant feeling of loving kindness, or you could substitute with a neutral feeling of equanimity, and you could say, well, if it's if I happen to be injured by the snake, I'm just going to bear it, but I'm not going to get angry. And so I say, using your mindfulness to try to perceive things in a way which is not biased, see them accurately as they are, see them as being impermanent, that will be a way to correct any unjustified Vedana that happens to come up. Like if you get upset because you think something is a permanent harm to my existence. Yeah. And then with wisdom, you see, actually, it's not that important. Are the 8 worldly conditions considered feelings also, or are they volitions? Those are external, those are objects which can be seen with wisdom, or they can be seen with foolishness. So, bodily pain and pleasure are feelings. Those are the first 2 of the 8 worldly winds. So, gain or a loss, fame or infamy, praise and blame, those are external situations that can arise, which will, for a foolish person will become very happy about the pleasant side of those worldly winds, and their greed will be stimulated by fame or by pleasure or by any of the positive side, and then the painful circumstance then is, in that case, the first two, the pleasure pain. That's the first era. So if you're not wise, then pain, physical pain, will quickly bring the second era of the dislike, the aversion, the resistance, the repulsion, and so the other parts of the worldly winds are more like objects that normally would be experienced as pleasant and unpleasant. So if somebody is insulting you, or if you fall into disrepute and you're subject to a lot of criticism and so forth like that, that could like very naturally be painful. And even if, I'll give that as an example. If it was justified, if you really did something that you earned that criticism, then you should feel painful. You should feel remorse and discomfort because you made a mistake and did something unskillful, and then you should quickly take care of it in order to emerge out of that state of being upset, to find out or have it pointed out to you that you've done something unskillful. And so they're very, very related to this. Ryan writes, I've read The Contemplation of Feeling by Venerable Nyanaponika. The Buddha said, all things converge on feeling. And it's given a reference to AN 9.14. Malay Sujata translated as feeling is their meeting place. And he's speaking about the basis for the thoughts that arise in a person, which arising from contact. And then it says feeling is their meeting place. This is sort of like a poem, isn't it? Feeling is the meeting place. Immersion is the chief. Mindfulness is the ruler. Wisdom is the overseer. Freedom is the core. And I would say that I experience feeling as being more like a point of origin rather than a point of coming together, because so much of the proliferation of attention, all of the other mental factors, attention, perception, volition, and proliferation, obsession, all of that is sparked by feeling. And fueled by feeling. even as the different stages of the mental process go on, the accompanying feelings that are happening are having a constant, profound effect on the direction that our thoughts go. So that's my interpretation of that. I think we've come to the end of our question and come close to the end of our time. I thank you, everyone, for your patient listening. Sadhu, 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 anumodam.